Law enforcement in Poland consists of the police, city guards, and several smaller specialized agencies. The Prokuratura Krajowa and an independent judiciary also play an important role in the maintenance of law and order. History: pre-20th century. During the period of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth's existence, most law enforcement was undertaken by a group of nobles of varying degrees of importance who possessed private armies and who, in return for political power and a place within the nation's social hierarchy, swore their allegiance, and that of the mercenary troops, to the king. As a result of the enduring power of a number of powerful magnates within the social hierarchy, relative weakness of the elected monarchs and continued existence of the feudal system in Polish society, centralized rule of law and enforcement of the same did not truly exist until the 1791 adoption of the 3rd of May Constitution. The Constitution aimed to weaken the golden freedoms of the upper classes and redistribute a portion of the power amongst the mercantile middle classes. In addition to this, the establishment of a majority voting Sejm and increased centralization of sovereign power under the authority of the king, led to the establishment of a standing army, provided for by the state and subordinate only to the king and authorities of the national government. As a result of the 1772 to 1795 partitions of Poland, and subsequent rule of the partitioning powers, the authority of King Stanislaw August collapsed and the former territories of the Commonwealth came under the direct supervision of their partitioning powers' law enforcement services. In Austrian-controlled Galicia, the imperial gendarmerie became responsible for preserving public order and later became known for being arguably the least oppressive of the three occupying powers. In both the Russian and German territories of the former Poland, it was widely reported that law enforcement agencies and paramilitaries engaged in both oppression of Polish political organizations and the forced assimilation of local culture with those of their own nations. Post-1919 independence until today. In 1919, with the re-independence of the Polish nation, the state reorganized itself along non-federalist lines and established a centralized form of government. Under the auspices of the new government, a new national police force was formed. This Polish state police then existed as the primary law enforcement agency for the entire nation up until the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. During the interwar period, a number of key law enforcement duties were delegated to other formations, such as the border guard and military gendarmerie. With the end of World War II and the onset of the communist period, the new Soviet-backed government decided to radically change the structure of policing in Poland. The state policja was renamed as the Milicja Obywatelska, a name which was meant to reflect a change in the role of the police, from an instrument of oppression ensuring the position of the bourgeoisie, to a force composed of and at the service of normal citizens. The reality turned out to be largely the opposite, and the militia instead represented a rather state-controlled force which was used to exert political repression on the citizens. The militia was for the most part detested by the general populace. Events such as the police's conduct during the Gdansk shipyard strike and surrounding the Popularsko affair only worsened the people's view of the law enforcement agencies. After the fall of the communist government in Poland, the system was reformed once again, this time reviving the pre-war name of Policja, and albeit with a few minor changes, the general system of law enforcement of the Second Republic. Police. The Policja is the national police force of Poland. It is directly responsible to the national government. Officers are routinely armed, and are responsible for the investigation of most ordinary crimes. They are responsible for many specialist services such as highway patrol and counter-terrorism. They can be contacted by calling 997 from any telephone. As Poland is a very centralized state, regional law enforcement agencies do not exist in the way that they do in the United States, Canada, Germany and the United Kingdom. While voivodeship commands exist within the organizational structure of the policia, the regional authorities do not have any major say in law enforcement policy. City Guard. Several gmina in Poland have their own police forces which work in conjunction with the policia. They have more limited powers than the policia and do not currently carry firearms. They can be contacted by calling 986 from any telephone. Other law enforcement and security agencies. In addition to the policia and the city guards, there are also a number of specialized agencies which operate with more specific objectives. Agencies.The responsible for matters related to Poland's internal security, including counter-espionage and counter-terrorism. It is analogous to the American Federal Bureau of Investigation and British Security Service. It is responsible directly to the Prime Minister. Biuro Ochrony Rządu, a protective security unit tasked with the protection of the Polish President, Prime Minister, Ministers of State, and other at-risk persons within the government. Centralne Biuro Anti-Korupcyjne, responsible for investigating and preventing corruption in both the public and private sectors. It was founded in 2006, and is responsible directly to the Prime Minister. Specialne. The Polish Customs Service is responsible for collecting customs duties mostly at Poland's borders, and is responsible to the Ministry of Finance. Oddział Cywilny, armed civilian watchmen tasked with protecting military areas. They are responsible to the Ministry of Defense. Straż Graniczna, responsible for border protection at land borders and other points of entry, such as airports. Straż Ochrony Kolejowej, typically armed security unit operating on trains and at railway stations. And Armia Wojsk, the military police of the Polish armed forces. They have authority over all service personnel, as well as civilians working for the armed forces or living on military bases, and foreign soldiers based in Poland. As part of the armed forces, they are responsible to the Ministry of Defense. Transportation and equipment. The police are routinely armed, and use a variety of marked and unmarked cars, vans, motorbikes and other vehicles. The most common patrol car is currently the Kia CEED. Other law enforcement agencies operate more standardized fleets which usually contain only one or two vehicle models. This is usually because city guards source all the cars of the small fleets from one firm so as to reduce cost, whilst more specialized services buy large fleets of vehicles specific to the requirements, an example of which would be the large use of all-terrain Land Rover Defenders by the Border Guard.